Trump has deigned to take just a little bit of time away from his threats to invade sovereign countries like Panama and Greenland and to commit economic terrorism against Mexico and Canada, to instead pick fights with state and local officials of a state that he doesn't like, which is currently on fire. He took to Truth Social as the fires raged in California, writing, "Fire is spreading rapidly for 3 days, zero containment, nobody has ever seen such failed numbers before, gross incompetence by Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, and Biden's FEMA has no money, all wasted on the green new scam. LA is a total wipeout. Governor Gavin Newsom should immediately go to Northern California to open up the water main and let the water flow into his dry, starving, burning state instead of having it go out into the Pacific Ocean. It ought to be done right now. No more excuses from this incompetent governor. It's already far too late. It's ashes and Gavin Newsom should resign. This is all his fault." Now, it's taken me a bit longer to make this video than I had intended to make, mostly because I live here in Los Angeles. When the Hollywood Hills fire broke out, this right here on your screen is my view. I was a mile away from it. I spent the evening watching local news to figure out whether or not my house was at risk of burning down. I had to look at everything that I own and figure out what to put inside of a backpack in the event that the place caught fire and I was left with nothing. And frankly, I was one of the lucky ones because I woke up the next morning with power for the first time in 3 days and a house. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of the people in my city and my state, they can't say the same. They went to bed on Monday or Tuesday fine, and they woke up on Wednesday or Thursday with quite literally nothing. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but I think it's worth reiterating the sheer emptiness that so many people here are left with. And to add on top of that the incoming president of the United States is using this opportunity to settle political scores puts on full display just how aggressively and dangerously unfit for the office he is. That he found time to launch multiple posts attacking his political rivals and yet couldn't even manage a single well-wish to people who have lost everything shows you exactly who that guy is. And look, we don't need well wishes from Donald Trump. Fuck that guy. But I hope the rest of the country can learn from this a little bit about him, that in the face of unprecedented tragedy in one of America's most iconic city, the city that I've called home for 15 years, the president-elect couldn't even bother to fart out a single word of hope for the millions of people impacted here because they come from a state that didn't vote for him. Donald Trump isn't in this for America. He is in this for Donald Trump. This guy is focused on his own ego and nothing more. He views the presidency as just transactional. And unless you are willing to pledge undying loyalty to him, he does not give a shit about you. And yes, it was LA this week, but what about if your state has a Democratic governor? What if your city has a Democratic mayor? Your congressional district has a Democratic congressperson? What if your sheriff doesn't comply with his ICE deportation orders? What if your state doesn't have enough electoral votes for you to matter? This is why it's important to have a president who actually cares about the country that he was elected to lead. And in fewer than 2 weeks, we're all going to lose that. And we'll gain a president whose sole priority is himself, his wallet, and his ego. And I'll be honest, the only silver lining of this fire happening right now and not after January 20th, 2025 is that I know the Trump administration would not lift a finger for LA or California more broadly. And instead, this was the announcement today from Joe Biden.
And this morning, due to the magnitude of the disaster, I was talking with the governor and he requested if I could increase the federal funding that was authorized under this legislation from 75% to 90%. We're increasing it to 100% of all the costs to be covered by the federal government for both the fire management systems grants and the elements of what they call the disaster declaration. So today I'm announcing that the federal government will cover 100% of the cost for 180 days. This is going to pay for things like debris and hazard material removal, temporary shelters, first responders' salaries, and all necessary measures to protect life and property. And folks, I want to underscore, I told the governor and local officials, spare no expense to do what they need to do and contain these fires and in their communities that have really been devastated.
Which is a good first step, although frankly, not even close to enough to compensate for what these people here have lost. Consider, too, insurance companies have dropped coverage for more than 100,000 Californians in just the last 5 years as the climate crisis continues to worsen. According to CBS, about 1,600 policies in the Pacific Palisades were dropped by State Farm in July, California Department of Insurance spokesman Michael Spoiler said in a Thursday interview to CBS. An analysis of insurance data by CBS San Francisco last year found that State Farm also dropped more than 2,000 policies in 2 other Los Angeles zip codes, which include the Brentwood, Calabasas, Hidden Hills, and Montanido neighborhoods. And as I'm recording this, a new fire has broken out near Calabasas, which means that there are certain to be folks who are uninsured and about to lose everything they own. And as if it wasn't bad enough that the president-elect is a fragile man-child who needs to make everything about himself, his little acolytes in right-wing media now have a permission structure to do the same.
So who else is running things? This right here, ladies and gentlemen? This is the leadership of the LA Fire Department. I sure hope they know what they're doing.
That's Jesse Waters attacking the LA Fire Department, not because of any reasoned argument about their qualifications or their performance, but rather because they're either women or gay. That's it. They couldn't possibly do the job because they're not straight white men. I suppose because women are too emotional to lead, even as Donald Trump threatens to invade Denmark to be able to annex Greenland. Got it. And of course, if you've been on Twitter, you have undoubtedly been subject to a barrage of disinformation and attacks by right-wingers who are looking for any excuse to dunk on liberal California, and it's all amplified by Elon Musk's algorithm. Like, for example, that California had no water prepared. That wasn't true. The water reserves were full in the lead up to this fire, but the sheer size of these fires, over 25,000 acres and growing, and the whipping Santa Ana winds, which have come close to 100 miles per hour, left us unable to contend. Here's Biden at least attempting to debunk some of that disinformation.
What I know from talking to the governor, that there are concerns out there that there's also been a water shortage. The fact is, the utilities understandably shut off power because they're worried the lines that they carried energy were going to be blown down and spark additional fires. But the Cal Fire, when it did that, it cut off the ability to generate pumping the water. That's what caused the lack of water in these hydrants. And so Cal Fire is bringing in generators to get these pumps up and working again so that there's no longer a shortage of water coming out of these hydrants.
And of course, hearkening back to those initial posts by Donald Trump on Truth Social, this idea that FEMA has no money, that's not true. This idea that all California has to do is allow some spigot to be open from Northern California to Southern California to allow the water to flow, that's not true. So Donald Trump will lie every time he has the opportunity, regardless of whether it makes the broader efforts to keep Californians safe more difficult. Now, with all of that said, I'm certain that we are going to find out in the coming days and weeks if more could have been done to prevent the scale of what happened here. My gut, frankly, tells me that more could have been done to prevent the scale of what happened. And I honestly don't give a shit if you are a Democrat or a Republican or independent or completely unaffiliated with any political party. If anybody in leadership dropped the ball, there is zero excuse and they should not be in a position of power. But what I won't do is attack LA's leadership because of their gender or who they sleep with. And the people who've taken this opportunity to do exactly that are not making the point that they think they're making, but they sure are telling on themselves. So I'll sign off here by doing the one thing that the incoming president doesn't have the balls to do, and that is to extend a word of hope and encouragement to the people of LA and Southern California. We won't forget about you. We will fight to make sure that you get what you need and to do what needs to be done to ensure that nothing like this happens in the future, if at all that's in our control to do. I know that nothing I say here is going to be enough, but we're pulling for you and sending you all the love and strength to get you to the other side of this thing. And above all, please stay safe and please stay vigilant. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.